Python string knowledge in today's world has become quite essential, especially if you're going into sentiment analysis or you're working with text data. Of course, you're going to have to manipulate text in so many ways. Strings in Python could be thought about like an array of bytes, which are representing Unicode characters. And in a previous video, I did mention that strings can be encoded into bytes, and there are different encoding formats. And as well, these bytes could be decoded back into strings. In today's video, we'll be talking about concatenating in Python, modifying, formatting, and some other concepts in Python strings. Stick around. As usual, we have our Jupyter notebook opened up, and we have named a project which we call Python strings. Now, let us declare a basic Python variable, and from there we can begin to do some work. Okay, we can call it any name, variable, maybe just var should be okay. Now, let's just declare a basic hello world. Hello world. Okay, just in case you want to confirm what type of data type this variable is, var. Run that, you see that hello world actually is regarded as a string. Okay, now like I said, you don't have to be boxed in. This could be anything. You could change this to variable. It could be anything. Now, if you want to know more about writing variables, refer back to our previous videos, because there are rules of declaring your variables as well. So this is actually a string, okay? But let me take it back to what it was. I kind of prefer it looking short. Yeah, that's just for my own enjoyment. So, all right, now let's think about something here, okay? We have a Python string here, which is represented as an array, right? Now, these arrays actually have their numberings, okay? So if you notice, this is the first hello, or rather, starting, if you want to start counting, you start counting from 0. So H will be 0, E will be 1, the first L will be 2, the second L will be 3, and O will be 4. So let's assume you want to print any of the numbers, or any of the letters. You declare it in a square bracket. So you have variable square bracket. So we want to print maybe the 4th letter. Just an example, okay? So what does it give us? Letter 0, because if you start counting from 0, which is H, letter 0 is the 4th count, okay? So that's why you have 0 there. Let's assume you change this to maybe 6. What is it going to give to us? W. Now there's a space in between. The space is the 5th one. So if you change this to 5, you see it brings you that empty space. So now the same way you're counting forward, you can choose to count it backwards, okay? You can choose to say maybe -5. -5 now would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. Yeah, so okay, yes, so that would be 5, which is W. Yeah, W. And by the way, if you're counting backwards, you're starting from number 1, okay? So that's something you should keep in mind. If you're counting forward, you start counting from 0. But if you're counting backwards, you start counting from 1, okay? So keep that in mind. The same way you can actually you can count a series of words. Okay, you can choose to count from maybe the 2nd word to let's say the 6th word. Okay, so the 2nd word will be, you have 0, 1, 2. So you should start counting from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So let's run this, and then you have Leo. Oh no, when you say 6, what actually happens here is it doesn't stop at 6, it stops at 5. Okay, so it will count from 2 to 5. Okay, so also keep that in mind. So if you actually wanted to capture the W, you'll have had to add 7. So it will stop at number 6, which is W. Okay, so that's for that. So now with this array, this string you have, you can as well write a loop around the string. Okay, for example, let's write a basic for loop for x in var. By the way, we'll be talking about for loops in our future videos. So let's say we declare, we write a simple for loop for x in R. Let's just keep it simple and print x. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to run through the array. Okay, run through each letter. So for the first x in var, it will be h. The second x will be e. The third x will be l. It will keep counting each of them to the end of it. Okay, so for each one it picks, it should print it. So what you expect to see is it should print everything in a straight line, because as it's running through it, you'll be picking them one by one and be printing them in a straight line. Okay, so that's what you have there. So it runs through the hello world. For each of them, which is x, it prints that x. Okay, you can also in Python strings decide that you want to run some sort of checks on maybe a string of text. For example, you have a string of text simply saying the best things in life are free. Now you can say, right, print free in text. What this does is, first of all, let's take this out. Let's just say free in text. Okay, free in text. Now, what this is saying is check if in this text here, which is this string here, confirm, read through it and check if there is a word called free. If there's a word called free in that string, then this is a true statement. Okay, that's a true statement. So when you run it, you get true. Okay, so either way you choose to go about it, it's supposed to give you true. Okay, so this can be used in different ways. Okay, you can maybe, for example, be working on a chatbot and maybe you have a user input like okay, maybe you have, maybe let me just define 3 variables. Maybe the first one is Apple. Second one is Pierre. Third one is pineapple. And by the way, this is supposed to be in a quotation so that it can come out as a string. Okay, let's assume you have a variable which you say variable is equals to let use for good. Let something be used for good. Okay, so you can decide to format this particular string. Okay, now I've declared a string called variable, right? And if you notice, this string here has this curly brackets in it, curly bracket function I've put into it. What that curly bracket does is it is waiting for something that it will collect. So I need to feed it something, right? And the process of feeding it something is what you call formatting strings. Okay, so right now I'm going to apply a format method here to this. I'm formatting it. But for this to know what exactly I'm formatting, what am I putting into this curly bracket? It means I have to feed it one of the variables. So let me feed it this variable. I'm just checking to be sure that I've written everything right. Okay, so what is going on here is say let the apple, it replaces this stuff here with apple. Okay, so the same way I can choose to change this to B. and run it, it will change to pair because it has formatted this to the value of pair. It has collected the value of pair. Now you can use this for multiple objects. Let that be used for that. Let this be used for saying throw away the. I'm writing a long sentence here now. Okay, so I have actually added 3 of these collectors, these curly brackets here, right? Because I want to demonstrate something. The first one, we use just 1. Now, when I'm formatting it, what I'm supposed to do is I will add everything. So A is A, comma, C. That's the way you do it. So what the compiler will understand now is this variable here, which is this one here, right? Format those 3 things. And these are the values you insert into each of them. So the first one, we have the value of A. The second one, the value of B. The third one, the value of C. So let me run this. And you have that sentence. Let the apple be used for good and let the pear be used for saying. Throw away the pineapple. Okay, so that's for that. But you know, apart from that, you can also use the indexing of these declared variables here, because you know these 3 variables that were declared, you can count them as saying apple is number 1, right? I mean, apple is 0, pear is 1, and pineapple is the second, right? So 0, 1, and 2. So in this place, you can choose to use 0, 1, and 2. And you still get the exact same answer that you got there. Let me run that so we just confirm. Let the apple be used for good and let the pear be used for sin. Throw away the pineapple. Okay, but what if we choose to say 2, 1, 0 or 2, 0, 1? Let me totally displace everything. 2, 0, 1. So this 2 now is pineapple, right? So let's run this and see. So what is going on here now is it will replace the value. 2 now is pineapple, right? So it picks the value of pineapple and puts it there. 0 is apple. So it picks the value here and replaces it with apple. What is here to replace it with apple? What is here is 1. So the first one, the 1 here is pear. So it will replace the value with pear. All right, there's also a scenario where you could have a string and you could have maybe an empty space in that string. For example, you have x, which is equals to, let's just define any, maybe even a hello world, the same hello world will be fine. Now, let me add a space here, okay? So it's not just a hello world, there's a space before the hello world. So what do you do here? You could say x dot strip. When you run it, you see that it takes away the space in between the hello world. Okay, so let's see. Let's store that in another container. Same x. So x is hello world. I've replaced it there with the same x. Okay. Now let's imagine something here, right? That in our variable we declared there was a comma sign. Okay. Now, apart from strip, let me run this first of all. So our x is actually hello world like this, right? Now, let's imagine that we want to separate this string and we want to use some sort of key to separate it. How do we go about doing this? It's simple. We use the split method, okay? All right, so in this case, we already know what our X is, which is hello, comma, world, okay? So we could just, oh no, this should be X. So we could just simply run, now let me take out this print first, because sometimes. Just simply say the X we have, which is the hello world, split it, okay? And we're splitting it by our comma sign here, okay? And we split it, the value of X will show us something else. Let's see what we get. So it gives us this array, this new array, right? Which has these two different words, hello and world, okay? We can choose to store this inside the same variable X, right? In Python strings, you can also concatenate two text variables. You can have two variables, maybe one is A is hello, B is world. You could declare a third variable and simply say A plus B, okay? But if you run it this way, it might not look very good because the two might be joined together, okay? So what you might want to do is when you say A plus, you might want to declare a space, something like this, okay? So what you're doing here is A plus, then there's a space in between, plus the B. So when you run it this way, at least you can have hello world. You can also refer to the Python documentation. When you Google, you can go to the Python strings documentation, and you have these wonderful methods that you can also take advantage of. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this comment. Please share with your friends. Please write us, comment, tell us something. Subscribe to this channel, support what we're doing. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.